Hi everyone. Today we did get a huge move lower as we expected. We got the big move down here, consolidation, big move down here. It was on the back of some European tariff news, but nevertheless, we still have this bearish structure and it continues to look bearish. But let's take a quick look at the charts and the data to see if we have any different information.
Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started.
So in news today, we got Trump calling for 50% tariffs on the EU, saying he's not looking for a deal with the bloc right now. He wants to see these recommend, which is interesting considering he's kind of the authority at this point, but he said he's recommending straight to 50% on the European Union after saying that trade negotiations have stalled. So not super great there, not looking for a deal with the EU, and then you got futures going down as you would expect. So everything not super great here. Maybe markets were starting to sniff this out earlier in the week, but the structure flipped bearish, and then we got this big announcement this morning, which of course is very bearish for markets. So we'll see, is this going to be satisfied before the 90 days are up, or is this going to revert back to the reciprocal tariffs? Markets are obviously very hopeful that we do get deals with other countries beyond the UK, but right now that's all we have. Moving over to fear and greed, we did end up at a 64 from a 66. Honestly, this hasn't moved as much as I would have thought that it might, with the structure changing pretty aggressively. And you can see here the S&Ps are back below that 125 SMA, so that is a very bearish development. Big breakdown, overthrew it, break back below. Do we get the continuation lower? I think it's probably likely at this point. Looking at strength though, starting to roll just a little bit in regular greed. Breadth rolling down, we've been talking about that. Definitely very extended to the upside. Put call ratio starting to spike up over the last 2 days, and then volatility, of course, going higher, getting close to that 50-day. I think we're going to go a little higher than that, probably to the 30 range. And then bonds, no movement there, still extreme greed on both of those. Moving over to the charts, looking at the S&Ps here, you can see we gapped down pretty aggressive, and then did rally back to that level. 578.87 was the level. We closed above it just by about 20 cents or so, and you can see it here on the hourly. Big push through there, hit that 21 EMA, sold off to the level. For me, this is a breakdown retest breakdown. We're right at it. Momentum slightly bullish, RSI hanging in there, but structurally you have a high, lower high at this point. So you should be expecting a lower low, or at least a double bottom in this kind of 574 area. You got a trend here, 572, and then the level 569.90. So that's what we're looking for. On the daily chart, you do have that 200 in there as well, 573.23. So right in this same zone. Structurally, that's where we should go before we see any kind of change here. Is this a high double top or a lower high setup on the daily chart? That still remains to be seen, but structurally on the hourly, still bearish. And then looking at that Tasty chart here just for a moment, you can see we did roll down on the trailing stop just a little right now, 583.96. We went down to that lowest ATR band. Makes sense. We got a little bit of a bounce from there. Still below the 8 EMA. For me, that is still bearish. So your target right now to the downside would be 572.73. So really in that same area is the target. Double bottom is the move at a minimum. Do we get a lower low? I still think that is absolutely in play for the Monday. Moving over to the NASDAQ, similar thesis, but even more bearish here. Well below the level, 509.74 was the level, gapped way below it, retested it, broke back below it here, and you can see it right here on the hourly chart. Big breakdown below all the EMAs and SMAs, retested them, didn't even hit the 21 EMA, and then sold off back below everything and that level on a closing basis. Momentum's trying to hang in there, RSI is trying to hang in there, we'll see. But right now, momentum probably going to flip bearish on the Monday. You also have RSI continuing to break down. This should go at least to the 50 on the RSI for the daily chart. Do we get a bounce there? Maybe. And then you do have a little bit of trend support in here, 503.88. But either way, everything says should go a little bit lower. And the 509.74 is your current resistance. Moving over to the Tasty charts, you can see here right at that lowest ATR band, just like the SPY charts. Right now, the target is 502.51 based on that lowest ATR band. Again, still well below that 8 EMA on a closing basis. And honestly, this makes a little bit more sense to me versus the trading view charts. You can see the breakdown, retest of that 144 EMA right in here. Touched that level, touched the 21 EMA, and then did sell off. So still the same setup, but it does show a little bit cleaner level and a bigger sell off of that level. So either way, still bearish, but a better setup. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow, the Russell actually showed a fair amount of strength here. Did gap down aggressively, but then did fill the gap and then sell off a little bit. Still down a third on the session. Did get back above 201.88 on a closing basis, but momentum bearish. RSI still bearish. Still expecting this to go to 198.75. Still expecting that 55 EMA touch. And then same here on the Dow. Big gap down right to the trend line. Did come up and almost hit that 418.38 level. But momentum, again, that's probably going to flip to bearish on the Monday. Momentum still bearish here. So either way, expecting this to continue to sell. Do we get a little bit of a more aggressive retracement, lower high setup continuation, more of a structural change? That is still a possibility, but right now it does say a little bit bearish for me still for the Monday. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft. Apple obviously had a big part of that tariff news. About another 25% was the recommendation here, so huge gap down for them. You can see that here, down about 3%. Hit that next level, 193.96. You got the trend in here. But we've been saying this is going to be bearish for a while, and you can see it absolutely has been. It's been straight down for the last 2 weeks. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish, volume picking up, expecting it to cut through here and head back to these lows around 172. That's what I am looking for. And then you can see Microsoft here, same thesis, gap down, starting to sell below that 453 level. The next one is 440.72, and then the 21 EMA in there, 435. So these are the targets, at least in the short term. Obviously, the structure is still much better than Apple and still very bullish, but in the short term, momentum bearish, RSI bearish, looking for at least a little bit more pullback on this one. Moving over to Tesla and NVIDIA. Tesla actually held up really well, down about 0.5%. NVIDIA also down about 1%. So in that same region, but both of them testing support here. Tesla was 336.76, held that support, and then did look for a little bit of upwards momentum. Not crazy there. Momentum still fading, RSI right on it there. And then looking at NVIDIA, same thesis. Touched that trend line, 130.35. Touched that support level, 130.35, and then caught a little bit of a bounce to the 140 area is what I'm looking for. Kind of looks bull flaggy in here, grinding slowly lower. It's not really accelerating quite yet. Can it go a little lower? Can it continue to do this? Absolutely, but for now, I kind of like this as a potential setup, but I'd like to see 130.35 hold as your support. Moving over to staples and discretionary. Staples catching a bounce here today after 2 days of bearish. Touched a lower level and then caught a bounce back into the middle of the range here. Is this a higher low setup? For right now, it does look like that is a potential. And then looking at discretionaries, more sells here as you would expect, being impacted by potential tariffs in the European Union, down about 1% there. Did get below 210 for a little bit. Did just barely close above it. Momentum probably going to flip bearish. RSI already slightly bearish for me. Moving over to breadth, you can see breadth did gap down, did fall well below that 51.70 level. Is it going to go lower to 36 here? I think that's possible. We got all the way to 42. I think we're probably going a little lower. Momentum and RSI still very much bearish. And same here on 50-day, you did get a flip to bearish momentum. RSI still bearish. Still below that 62.25 level, gap down, hit the trend, touched the resistance there, and now it looks to me like this is going to continue at least to the 52 and that 200 area. That's what I'd be looking for the Monday, Tuesday, potentially. Do we start to see a little bit of a bounce in here? Maybe we get a lower high setup, continuation lower potentially, or if it follows through to a higher high, then this structure is still intact. But for now, still looking for just a little bit more short-term bearish. Moving over to the dollar. Of course, the dollar did not like this news at all, just continuing to downtrend straight through. We said this was kind of bear flaggy, big move down, choppy price action, bear flag, structural break here, big continuation lower. So everything's been bearish on the dollar. If this dollar continues to waterfall sell, I do believe that is going to spook markets. But for right now, still looks bearish, and I believe there is more to go, at least to this low around 98. Next level, 96.85. Moving over to bonds. Even with the news today, bonds held in there pretty well. J&K not really moving at all. TLT getting a little bit of an up move. A little bit less than 0.25%. Momentum stepping to bullish. RSI still hanging in there. Again, structurally, not great. Medium to long term, still like this as an opportunity. Nice little buying zone here. Anything below this 85.90, I think, is a pretty strong medium to long term buy, but short term still looks structurally weak. Moving over to the VIX, you can see we had this nice consolidation. We got the up move here. Hesitation, continuation up. We did get as high as 25, but again, this is the zone we're looking for, at least 27 to 28 in the short term. Do we get up to this kind of 34 area? I still believe that's a possibility, but at a minimum, I'm expecting a touch here. Momentum bullish, RSI still bullish on the VIX. Moving over to my accounts, I had a pretty good day, up a little bit over $600 here. Obviously, I was short the calls going into the session, so the big move down was good for me. You can see that there. Still not all the way profitable on this, but if you factor in the shares that I sold at a profit 2 days ago, then we're in good shape here. Still holding this call short. I still believe there's a little bit more to go, at least 1, maybe 2 more days, especially if we get continued trade news about more tariffs or anything like that around the European Union. Of course, that's going to be a little bit bearish. So I think markets are factoring in a little bit more weakness, a little more uncertainty, and I do expect them to continue to go lower early next week, potentially all of next week. Let me know down in the comment section what you thought of the news surrounding the European Union tariff news. Seemed a little bit out of the blue, definitely not expected from me, but markets reacted strongly. Otherwise, like and subscribe if you got any value out of this episode. Make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.